Hi, everyone. My name is Fred Jaravata, and welcome to our show, the Teaching Bites podcast, where we connect you with awesome people and some amazing ideas to take your teaching to the next level. Today, I have a very special guest. Now, I've been chasing her around the past 6 months or so, maybe something like that. She's a very dear colleague and friend I work with here in the boys' school. Her name is Alexa Johnson, and I'm going to go ahead and turn over to her and introduce herself real quick. Before we do that, I want to congratulate you with the Cubbies going to the World Series.
Thank you. Very excited.
You guys beat the Giants.
Chicagoan.
You beat the Giants, yes, and I'm a Giants fan. But you also beat the Dodgers,
Yes.
which is awesome.
Exactly. Well, it's about time. 108 years. I think hopefully this is the Cubbies' year.
This is the year. All right. So, Alexa, go ahead and give us an intro about yourself, a 2-minute intro about who you are, what you do, and how did you get to this part of the universe.
Wonderful. So, name's Alexa Johnson, and aside from being from Chicago, as we just discussed, I am an educator, and I've been in my current position for about 5 years. So right now I am the lower school dean at Stewart Hall for Boys, and I work with kindergarten through fourth graders. And prior to that, I taught as a classroom teacher for 13 years and taught grades 1 through 4. And I've loved being able to bring that wide-ranging perspective to this role in administration.
Now, hold on. Now, when I was getting my master's at USF in 2010, I student taught under you.
Yes.
Remember that? Yes.
Yes, that was a while ago.
So, yeah, that was a long time ago. That was 6 years out of that.
Right.
But that was an amazing experience. I get to see you. We taught the same grade levels over the years, but also I was able to learn from you when I was going to getting my master's also. So thank you for that. Sorry to interrupt, but I might interrupt a lot, by the way.
That's fine.
All right.
No problem. And I would say, for the most part, when we were working together, I was teaching fourth grade, and for the most part, I did teach fourth grade, and really just loved that year. And I think that fourth grade instruction really led me to student-centered teaching and really became a passion of mine, which is going to be a large part of our topic today. And I think as I evolved as an educator, I really leaned more and more heavily in that direction and realized how much fun it is to teach with that kind of philosophy, and how much fun it is not only for the kids but for me as well. And just really love to pass that, what I've learned, along to others, because it can take kind of a mindset shift from our traditional ideas of instruction and teaching when you look at moving towards a more student-centered model. So anyway, I started here actually as an assistant teacher at Stewart Hall for Boys years and years ago, and then left and worked in charter schools for a couple of years in East Palo Alto and Marin City, and found myself really missing the Stewart Hall for Boys community and Sacred Heart community, and ended up finding my way back here to Stewart Hall as a first grade lead teacher, and then moved into second grade, and then finally into fourth, where I stayed for about 7 years before going into administration.
Now, real quick, what sparked you to go into the administration part, became a leader? What sparked you to do that?
So I think that was something I started to consider when I was working in the charter schools, and wasn't sure where my path would lead me, but I started to see the impact that administrators had on their school communities. When I was at Stewart Hall, I had such a strong administrative team there supporting me as a teacher. And then when I went to the charter schools, there was a mix, depending. One school had a stronger leadership team than the other. And I saw one leadership team pretty much drive one of the schools into the ground, and also felt that experience as a teacher, being supported by an administrative team and then really lacking support, and saw the impact that administration can have on the school community as a whole, and even in philosophically, the impact that administrators have on a learning environment, cultivating a learning environment that is one that is rich and vibrant for students and faculty, parents, and so on. And then as I came back to Stewart Hall for Boys, again, had that wonderfully supportive administration as a teacher, and it just kind of solidified for me what a valuable role that is. And then for me, as I was moving through my teaching career, felt that I was ready for a new challenge, and the opportunity came up and presented itself, and so here I am.
Nice. Okay. Yes, I remember that when you were going through that whole the process of applying, and that was an incredible process. A long time ago too. Has it been 5 years now?
It's my 5th year.
Wow, it's amazing.
I know.
Okay, so before we dive into the student-centered learning, quickly, what's one thing that you love about being in leadership now?
So one thing that I love about leadership, I would say my greatest concern about moving to leadership was losing contact with children.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found is that it's just a different kind of relationship, and I would say more of a long-term relationship. And so one thing that I really love is, instead of having that immersive experience with
long
students,
term, because you get to follow the kids all the way through.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of that 1 year immersive experience, you're really seeing children grow and change, and you can advocate for them as they grow and change, and support parents, through learning challenges and so on, and celebrate successes along with the children and families as well. So I'd say that that's one of my favorite parts of being in this position, is being able to do that over the course of 5 years for these boys.
That's amazing. Very cool. Okay, so let's dive into the workshop that you did in the beginning of the year, this summer, at the beginning of the school year. Now, can you explain what it is? I remember the question that you wanted to work on with your faculty. I just want to know why you did it. What was the spark for it? What sparked you? Well, what was the question first? Let's go back. Explain the whole genesis of this whole thing that you did.
Okay, so there are a couple of different, things that sparked this. One is just a love for student-centered teaching, and a desire to share that love and some strategies with faculty members.
Okay, for the new teachers listening, can you explain the student-centered
Sure. So
model?
Student-centered learning really focuses on, I suppose you could call it, inquiry-based learning, project-based learning, and so on. But it's really looking at your students and igniting their curiosity, their passion, that sense of wonder, and letting that sense of wonder really drive their learning. So that I think that really helps to foster motivation in children, and help them to make connections between what they're learning and their real world experience, and so on. And that motivation can really drive your whole curriculum forward in a way that is not quite as readily done when you have a very teacher-centered teaching style.
So why did you do it? I interrupted you earlier, but why did you do it? Why did you do this?
So as an administrative team, we were talking about this idea of student-centered learning, and really wanted that to be a focus for this year. And so that was one piece of that. And then another, I really recently, I'd say about a year ago, had this aha moment with design thinking in particular, where I'd learned about design thinking in the past, the theory of it. I'd had some experiences with it, but didn't really see how it could apply to my work. And then went through a design thinking experience that was targeted for administrators in our work, and just lived through this experience that was fundamentally just very relevant to my day in and day out work, and just saw so many more possibilities for design thinking than I ever had before, and really kind of could see how I could apply it to all sorts of different areas of my life and work. And so wanted to share that with our faculty as well.
Okay, so how did you plan this out? Now, the faculty, first of all, we all know the faculty, they're already the pressure of time, and now having them doing something new, it can shock them a little bit, right?
Right. So I would say that we went through a little bit of a design thinking process to actually create a design thinking process for our faculty, and did a lot of brainstorming and a little bit of preliminary prototyping as we cultivated this experience. And I mean, along with you and Krista in the Spark Studio, we had so many resources supporting us as we implemented this experience. But one thing that was at the center of this was the fact that time is always, such a premium, and it was just challenging for teachers who have so much to juggle, so much on their plates all the time, to learn about something new and implement it with their students. So we took a day out of our summer in-service schedule and devoted it to a full day of just immersive experience in design thinking.
And where did that happen? Where did it happen?
So, and that was another thing that was very important to me, was that we changed the environment, that we really got out of our regular school environment and old habits of mind. And so we were, again, part of the design thinking process. We were brainstorming places, locations, and discovered that we had a parent who had a connection at a place downtown, the Barrel House, which is a bar and has music and so on, hosts music. And it was a beautiful location, actually. Wood paneling.
The setting was cool, yeah, right.
Stained glass and very cool
There's
setting.
Christmas lights, these lights hanging around.
Little stage up front and a drum set and a big screen. So it was pretty perfect. Couches, comfortable couches and chairs and all sorts of different kind of seating options for people as well. So I think that was another piece that was particularly important to getting out of those old habits of mind, as being in a new location. And it was just a perfect location for a lot of group work and collaboration.
Right. And when I went there, Krista took care of the first staff with you, and I jumped in the afternoon. And just the setting itself, I was like, wow, it's nice. It's a lot of nooks and crannies that grade level teachers, you had them break off and work together.
Right. And then we, of course, made sure to bring in lots of great food during the course of the day, too.
That's key, yes.
Keep everyone fueled.
Right. And that's important, right? We all need, and we brought in food from outside, which is great, just to get out of that, like you said, that whole same environment, the same comfort zone, and you really wanted to push the faculty a little bit, right?
Right. Just think out of the box a little bit on what we're doing here.
So go ahead and explain what happened that day and how did it turn out?
So we had this professional development experience which I had mentioned that we took one day out of our summer faculty in-service week to devote to the design thinking process. And the design thinking process overall, is a deeply human process. You start with empathy. You need to clearly define your problem, brainstorm or ideate, and then start prototyping, test your solution, go back to prototyping if necessary, which usually I think it probably is necessary to refine your idea and your prototype and so on. So this day with the teachers was a design thinking experience that focused on the question, how might we develop new student-centered learning experiences for our students? And one thing that I've learned about is I think there's a book there called A More Beautiful Question. And I just love the idea of really defining your problem, as you define your problem, looking at it as from that framework of a beautiful question that really drives your work. I think that's so motivating to really always be able to use that question as your touchstone to go back to throughout the process. So we used that question with faculty, and faculty did a lot of brainstorming in their grade level teams, and then we had specialist faculty too from art and music and religion and so on come in together and support the process with the grade level teams as they're brainstorming, ideating. Then we had some time to prototype solutions and then share. And so now they'll be, during the course of this school year, testing out their prototypes with their students. So certain ideas had to do with the election cycle. One team developed a Shark Tank for their students so that they could explore innovations and you bringing in finance and mathematics and so on as well into the process. So they're really looking at integrating curriculum in a way that's very student-centered and project-based and inquiry-based and so on. So just having this full day to work with one another, to collaborate with one another, to draw from the art teacher, the music teacher, and so on, all these resources we have within the community really, I think, help to drive some of these student-centered experiences for this school year, which, teachers seem very interested in cultivating new student-centered experiences, but again, are always limited by time and that lack of ability to collaborate with one another during the course of the year. So really, it's fundamentally about just cultivating that curiosity and inquiry with students, alongside students.
All right. So I remember at the end, I think that was one of the most powerful when they were sharing and reflecting on what they did. Can you go over that a little bit and how that went?
Right. Well, the reflection, I agree, was really profound. And some questions that faculty focused on were, what is something new that you want to try at the end of this school year? What is something you learn that you're going to carry into this new school year? I will say everyone's favorite question was one that you had suggested. And it was, what is one thing we do really well that we need to stop doing? And that in particular sparked so much interesting conversation.
Right.
And teachers were we had a happy hour following the experience, and of course had to have a little fun and celebrate.
That helps too, right?
Right. But even into the happy hour, teachers were still reflecting on that question and
that was
talking
that beautiful
about,
question, right?
Right. And do we need to photocopy as many worksheets when we can have kids show what they know in other more
Teachers
exciting,
are really good
ways?
at copying, right? They're really good at that.
Exactly. Maybe we don't need to do that so much. So even teachers were exploring their classroom management strategies and styles, some of their teacher-centered instructional practices, some things like, photocopying, worksheets.
Or telling the kids, I'm really good at telling my kids to be quiet.
Exactly. Maybe we don't need to do that so much,
right?
And especially in a boys' school.
Or I got to redesign the lesson or that moment to be more engaging so that they're not talking.
Let's channel that energy
right.
instead of trying to get kids to withhold what they have to say. How do we channel that in a way that is exciting for them and really drives their learning forward?
So what do you think how it went that day?
So I think it went really well. I'm thinking about what design thinking is. Actually, I'll go back to another thing that sparked this whole experience was a trip that I had taken I'm in a graduate program right now through BATI, the Bay Area Teacher Training Institute. And we took a little field trip one day to IDEO, which is down near the Bay Bridge in San Francisco, and focuses on innovative solutions for problems, companies, so on. And that was extremely inspiring to me. And being in that new environment, learning about this new design thinking process, seeing it applied to all sorts of different situations and problems and opportunities was just extremely inspiring, as I said. So Tim Brown, who's the president and CEO of IDEO, talks about design thinking and how it's a human-centered approach to innovation and draws from a designer's toolkit to integrate the needs of people, the possibilities of technology, and the requirements for business success. And that is easily applicable to the education environment too, where, again, it's just a deeply human process that taps into abilities that all of us have and can get overlooked by more conventional problem-solving practices. So there's a lot of opportunity in design thinking, and I think that human-centered piece is particularly important and fundamental to what we're doing. So in this...
Well, let me. I think I did ask you. I think you touched upon it a little bit, but let me reframe it. What was the goal? What did you want your teachers to do?
So our goal was to shift more toward a student-centered model, or open ourselves up to integrating more student-centered projects and so on within the classroom, and versus having the teacher kind of sage on the stage model that we've seen in traditional education environments. It's more of the model that I had when I grew up, with the teacher up front of the classroom lecturing and so on, a lot of worksheets, and which doesn't necessarily inspire a lot of creativity. It So we were looking to expand upon our skill set and tool set. So that was really one of our main goals. And, as I said earlier, really looking at fueling motivation from the students. So,
right. But that can be scary from a teacher's point of view.
It can. It requires fundamentally that you're letting go of control.
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
that can be challenging. You can be concerned that you'll have more classroom management issues and so on. What I found as a teacher was when I went that route, though, of student-centered learning, and I let go of control and gave my students more control, any kind of classroom management issues that I might have had actually were reduced because they were so motivated. Students were really feeling that they could play to their strengths. And so I think that takes some of the fear of failure out for students. And also helps them to embrace failures because they're exploring, they're experimenting. And when you're in that mode of experimentation, you're okay. I think you're a little more okay with trial and error versus when you're doing a worksheet and you either are right or you're wrong. Mm-hmm. There's a little more room for just trial and error.
Right. Now, that trial and error, now I'm going to drill you a little bit on that. Again, going back to the time issue, that takes time.
It does.
That does take time to have the failure, right? The creative failure, and how to reiterate. And I think that's one of the biggest things that teachers like, I just give them the answer. Right? Let me just do it this old way.
Right, and get through the curriculum quickly.
Right.
So what I would argue is that while you might get through the curriculum, ultimately you want to look at what your outcomes are and what stays with your students long term. Mm-hmm. And what I found with student-centered learning is that what the students are learning, what they take away from a project or a unit, really stays with them and changes them and their thinking. They need to apply their learning in a way that solidifies it with them and in their mind. And versus you can learn something, you can memorize something for a test and know it for a week or a couple of weeks, maybe even a month, but that kind of instruction doesn't necessarily stay with you. It's not quite as lasting as when you're making a discovery for yourself. Right.
Now it's we're at the end of October now. You did this back in August. What is the feedback right now, or what is the what do you see now so far?
So far, well, the wonderful thing is this wasn't done in isolation. So we had this one experience last year. We also had a curricular focus on STEAM subjects, so science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. And through that year-long process, faculty were all pushed to look at integrating those subjects with one another to develop at least one new project in their classroom. So
let me hold on. I'm going to interrupt you right there. So in the podcast, I keep mentioning that Alexa, you are an idea machine. Okay.
Very kind.
Sprinkle throughout the 80 plus shows we had so far to date. I share with the listeners about the ideas that came out. One of the best ideas we've gone through, it's the TGIF.
Teacher's going to innovate on Fridays.
We're going to talk about it later, but I want to make sure we mention this before we continue.
Well, and I think that is important that we're infusing, this isn't just a one-off, but we're really trying to infuse this ongoing professional development, whether it's TGIF, whether it's the STEAM year-long focus on integrating a new project or looking at curriculum integration and providing that faculty meeting time for faculty from all different subject areas to come together to collaborate. Collaboration is a very important component to all of this. Prior to the STEAM focus, we actually had a curriculum design challenge as well, and this was another way to kind of spark some student-centered learning as well and integrated learning for students. And so we had teachers all decide whether they wanted to opt in or not. Actually, everyone ended up opting in and developing or expanding upon a project, and we're given a planning day. So again, time keeps coming up as it's so important to give teachers some time to plan together. Time and collaboration, I think, are two key components.
And the support that you're giving to them.
Right.
And the encouragement.
And I think that putting it out there that while there can be a lot of fear of failure from the teacher's standpoint, supporting this process with faculty, I think, can be encouraging and validating.
Right. Okay. So go back to that TGIF, that Teachers Gonna Innovate Fridays. What was the brainchild? You were the idea machine for that. What sparked that?
Well, we were all together, so. But there were, 4 of us brainstorming on, and again, I think that goes back to that design thinking mentality where one piece of that, of design thinking, the mindset is thinking about provocative ideas, ideas that are really out of the box, that moonshot thinking, that you're putting ideas out there that you might not actually be able to implement in reality, but by throwing some ideas out there, you often end up being led to something that is doable and might be something you couldn't have thought of if you had just gone the traditional route of problem solving that we usually go through.
The shortcut or the short answer,
right? Quick, short answers, and just thinking about what you've already done before. So anyway, I think using that arc of provocation, the moonshot thinking or so on was something that we applied to TGIF, where we were all brainstorming what can we do to support faculty with professional development in technology and so on. And we were all sitting in the Spark studio, and I think that also helps to spark some ideas. Again, the location that you're in and the team you're working with. And again, we were trying to think, how can we provide time for faculty? I have to say, I think most of my ideas do involve food. So
that is a great motivator.
It does seem to be a great motivator. So we decided to, bring teachers in during lunch on Fridays, provide them some lunch, really make it appealing to come in and experience the space, experience some new ideas, and things like the cubelets, the little robotics, and the 3D printer, coding apps, and so on.
Now, this opened up to the girls' school, too, which is great.
Yes. And again, I think that just speaks to collaboration, which is so important, so that we're not working in silos, that we're really reaching out to one another. I have to say that's one thing when I moved from being a teacher to an administrator was being in administration, you have the opportunity to go into so many different classrooms and talk to so many different people within a community. And I know that if I went back into the classroom, I would be a much stronger educator just by way of the number of different ideas and tools that I've been exposed to through conversations and observations.
That's amazing. All right, we're going to shift gears here, Alexa, a little bit. All right, so you're really busy. Your schedule is really busy.
It is.
Now, what are some resources, tools that you use so that I'm going to share with the teachers, how they can manage whatever they're going through? Can you share some tools or resources that you go to get some ideas and actually manage your day?
Okay, so I would say one thing that I do every day is I make sure I read. I have so many articles and so on that flood my inbox, and I really enjoy having a moment in my day to kind of take a break and reflect a little bit. So I think that's really important to me. The first thing in the morning, I usually read a little bit before school, maybe during a lunch break, get in another article, and then in the evening as well. And I feel that continues to fuel me and inspire me.
What's a great book you've been reading? What book do you recommend to teachers?
Okay. What do I recommend?
I know you're reading something new, right? I mean, you're reading something currently. It's about school of law.
I was going to say that right now I'm reading public school law for my graduate program. I'm not sure. Well, it's a wealth of information.
I bet it is.
It's good bedtime reading, too, if you're trying to get to sleep. So if we're looking at this area...
it could be also an article somewhere online. But what's something that really, if you had to share something with faculty out there or teachers out there, what's the one thing you would share with them? What resource?
Let's see. Some resources. Well, I would say that I tend to get lists of articles on, there's one magazine that I really enjoy. It's called Educational Leadership. Through ASCD, and I'm trying to remember what ASCD stands for, but I also get a list of articles daily from them, and I think that's a great resource that I draw from. There's also a Marshall memo that where Kim Marshall pulls together articles, topics, and so on from the week and condenses them into one.
So it's a lot of the current stuff happening, right?
A lot of current information that's out there, and whether they're trends, whether they're different viewpoints on hot topics like STEM or faculty assessment and evaluation. There are so many kind of hot button issues out there right now, and it's interesting to get a lot of different viewpoints and statistics and so on things that are going on in the education world.
Now, how do you filter that out, especially if you want to share that with your faculty?
Right. So I know that there's so much information
so
now.
Much. I mean, like teachers, there's so much information, and it's just so how do you filter that?
Right. I think that for me, I prioritize. I think about what's on my my list right at the moment. For example, if I see something involving student-centered learning, I'll look at that. We're also exploring assessment practices and reporting practices right now. And so that's something that really catches my eye because, you clearly can't read it all every day. There's just not enough time. But I think prioritizing and then also, mixing it up a little bit too. So if I find that I am reading a lot on reporting and assessment, then I will, if I see another article about something else, then I'll want to make sure that I'm keeping a balanced diet of literature.
You are basically, you're pulling from other resources or different articles out there, and you're trying to make connections right there and see how you can tweak it to your own goals, right?
Right.
That's innovation. Yeah. You're taking two different things sometimes and you smash them together.
Right. I know. I think that there's a little bit of a fallacy that innovation needs to be something that does not lean on any prior knowledge or information out there. And what I've found, and again, this goes back to the design thinking mindset and the fact that it is a very fundamentally human process, human-centered process, is that there's such a wealth of information and a wealth of wisdom within a school community. And it's at your fingertips out there through articles and so on in the internet. And I think that by going out, speaking with teachers within your community, students within your community, parents, other staff and administration, reading articles and so on, and gathering all this information, that's a wonderful way to think of something new or something that hasn't been done before, implement something that hasn't been done before within your community, is looking at what your community is, drawing from your community's strengths, talking to people about what their needs are. That seems to be the thing that always helps me to spark new ideas. Okay,
I was going to ask you, what is your advice? And I think you just gave it.
Exactly.
to leaders and to classroom teachers. And I like that. I like what you did. Thank you for sharing that. How about apps? Do you have any apps that you like using a lot?
Well, you're the one I go to for my apps. Let's see. Yeah, I would say one thing that I can't live without. Well, when you first said calendar, I think I have 3 calendars that I cross-check with one another so that I'm not missing anything.
Oh, my God.
Because I have to write everything out. That's helpful for me. And then I also, want to have something electronic too so I can access when I'm on the go. I will say that one thing that I really do love are the stickies on my computer.
Oh, yes.
And so I have a number of them.
Virtual, what do you call that?
See right now, my Post-it notes.
Oh, my God.
I know.
That's a lot of virtual Post-it notes. They're called stickies on the Mac if you have a Mac.
Yeah, there you go. So I will actually, and once again, I have my stickies, my little virtual Post-it notes on my computer, and then I have my physical ones on my desk.
That's a great tool.
It's a wonderful tool, and I cannot live without it. That's how I organize everything. I pull resources, and so I have some sticky notes. They're all color-coded.
Oh, really? Okay. So yellow means something, and blue means something else.
Exactly. For example, I'm looking at my blue ones right now, and I meet with my grade level teams every other week. And each grade level is the color blue. And so when I want to go to my grade level notes, and I go to my blue notes. And I have a certain section too, or sticky note for resources and ideas. So if I find a great article, I can either bookmark it or then put it in my sticky note so that when I have some time, I can go back to it and explore and research a little bit in more depth. Because during the course of the day, I think we are so busy, we're on the move, and you think that you're going to remember something, 3 hours later, remember the name of the article that you we're really intrigued by, but I found that there's so much more information coming at you during the course of the day that it's kind of hard to hold on to it. So if you can find a little parking lot for that information, it's so helpful.
Okay. Now, we're going to close this soon, but I'm going to let the phone ring. That's okay. We're actually, everyone, the listener, we are in Alexa's office right now, and she's on the third floor of the Stewart Hall building, and she has definitely one of the greatest views here in the city of San Francisco. I can see, I'm looking at Alexa, she's facing me, but I'm looking right past that, or I can see the Golden Gate Bridge. And to the right, I can see Alcatraz, so I can see the bay. It's amazing. I maybe have to take a picture of this so that people can see what I'm talking about. But before we close, how do you stay sane through all this stuff? How do you not get burnt out? This is your 5th year. How do you not get burnt out?
I have to say, I really love what I do. I am so passionate about education. I feel like I get to the end of a day and I feel like I haven't worked. Because I love what I do so much, and I love being around children. I love just being in a role where I do have the opportunity to cultivate a learning environment that is a positive, rich learning environment for all people that are a part of it. And I of course take that responsibility very seriously, and I think I can feel the weight of that sometimes.
Right,
too.
especially you have a family too. You have to balance all this out.
Yes. Balance can be tricky with the family and this job and a graduate program and so on. So I have to say, if I didn't really love what I did, it probably would be taxing. But each day I just feel so fueled by the people that I'm around, the people I work with, and so I think that just keeps me invigorated and wanting to learn more and experiment more. And I think it's a very exciting time to be in education as well, because we can focus on student-centered learning, things like design thinking and so on, that we didn't have the resources that we do now back even 10 years ago. So
yes,
there's a lot of opportunity and just a lot of excitement out there about all the possibilities afforded us by technologies and new philosophies and so on. So I have to say I'm having a lot of fun.
Good. Very good. All right. I'm trying to think of one more question before we shut us down. Okay. So here it is. So do you think you'd go back to the classroom one day?
I'm not sure. I would never say never. I have to say, you just said, I'm really loving what I'm doing now. And, it's hard to envision going back to the classroom at this moment. But at the same time, I do miss the classroom each and every day. And just that, while I love those long-term relationships with the students and parents and so on, it is a different type of relationship. And I have my favorite lessons and units and projects that I used to teach that I do miss each year around that time of year when I would traditionally be teaching something. I will think about that and sometimes offer to go into the classrooms. And we've talked about trying to find some time to schedule me in as a guest instructor here and there, which is nice to reconnect in that way.
That's cool. Well, Alexa, thank you for sharing your valuable time and a lot of your great insights and what you are doing. You're doing amazing work here at Stewart Hall and School of Sacred Heart. And I hope that you continue on and for the next 25 years or so.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much. I have to say, you're working with you is what keeps me invigorated.
Well, thank you. So, yes. I think we feed off of each other.
I agree.
Because you have all these ideas and I'm getting reinvigorated about all of this happening as well. And hopefully our listeners will be getting some ideas too as well. Now, some teachers out there may want to contact you. I'm going to tell them to contact me first.
Okay.
And then I'll push them over to you when needed,
Wonderful.
if possible.
Yeah, I'd be happy to answer questions.
Yes. All right. Mrs. Johnson, thank you so much for joining our show. And good luck, Cubbies.
Yes,
in the World
go
Series.
Cubbies. Thank you.
All righty. All right, people. So if you love this show, if you like this show, please share this show with everyone else. And go ahead and subscribe. See you later. See you the next time on the Teaching Bites Show. Bye.